First off, I'm currently 51 years old, and this is still bothering me to this day. I have quite a few stories throughout my life to share, but this is the first. I was living in a new state, which I had never been to before. This was in the era where our parents told us to go out and play and be back at dinner time. I was 9 years old in 1979, and we just moved to Dallas, Texas. I was playing outside by myself and was approached by another young girl. She seemed normal and asked to play with me. I was okay with it. She asked if I wanted to see her playroom. I didn't see any reason not to and followed her. Mind you, we lived in townhouses that looked like row houses. So we went into her townhouse. Never saw anyone in the house, just the two of us. The townhouse looked normal. We went upstairs and into a bedroom that looked like a little girl's. She walked up to the wall and pushed a panel which opened. She crawled in and stupid me followed. Inside was this amazing room full of toys and a little black kitten she was holding. I was so taken by all in front of me, I was just excited to play. We played for a bit. However, in the secret room there were no windows or natural light. I could not tell what time it was. Eventually I felt uncomfortable, like I needed to go home. So I told her I had to go, mind you, never once asking her name nor telling mine. But she turned to me with dark eyes and asked by my name, did I really want to go because it was fun here in the room. I was creeped out because I know I didn't say my name. I crawled out and she followed me. I just kept moving down the stairs to the door, trying to avoid looking back. But once I opened the door, I did look back and she looked like part girl and part skeleton. So I ran home as it was dusk and I knew I was going to get in trouble. I didn't say anything to my mom. I went about my evening and slept like normal. But the next day I was disturbed by it and decided to go back and see if she was still there. When I walked down to the townhome, it was all boarded up like there had been a fire there. I stood back and looked at it for a while, knowing I was in there yesterday. I never saw or heard anything about the little girl again. I wish I had told someone who could have found out if she ever lived there. To this day, I can see that hidden playroom like it was yesterday. Update. My mother doesn't have the address, so I'm going to track it hopefully through school records. I have to call on it Tuesday since Monday is a holiday. I have the correct school, and I'm going to see if they have my records so I can at least track down the record of the address. For the first few months, the house seemed pretty normal, but then, one night, my son came screaming down the stairs in what I would call a night terror. I assume he woke up from a nightmare and it just kept going. He finally took a deep breath and said, "I was sleepwalking. I'm okay," and went back up to his room. Then the weirdness started. One night I was down in the basement doing laundry and I heard a small child's voice behind me say, "Hi there." When I turned around, no one was there. At that point, we started finding toys in the basement in obscure places. My first thought was that the children who lived there before had hidden them in the crevices in the walls. Then one day I noticed a box of old marbles appeared where I had just cleaned. None of the toys belonged to my kids. I also set up a cheap dollar store alarm system around the office area, so I knew when the kids would sneak into the office and try to find birthday and Christmas presents. Little stinkers. They did that often. One day, when I was in the bathroom, the alarm went off. I yelled from the bathroom, "Hey, get out of my office!" Since my son and I were the only ones home, I heard him yell from upstairs, "I'm not in your office!" As time went by, we could hear a piano playing at night that I thought might be the neighbors, and sometimes the lights in the ceiling fan would go on and off. I blamed old lighting. The front door would sometimes open, if not double locked. I told the woman who owned the home before the new landlords bought it, as our kids were friends. She told me the reason why she put a double lock on the front door is that someone would open the door at night, and the reason she finally sold the house is because all of the weirdness surrounding it, including the piano. After that, we started looking for another place to live. It was during this time that really strange stuff started happening. My kids would feel like they were getting pushed up the stairs when going up, and then one night, while my son was asleep in his room, he heard an old woman's raspy whisper from the closet saying, "I'm going to kill you." The kids would see shadows of figures going from our back porch area to a small building that belonged to the old house next door. It was supposedly a candy store that burned up inside years before, but the outside remained undamaged. At this point, we moved. I own and operate a movers company. On many occasions, we're sent to homes where the owners have passed away. The homes are older than 100 years old, and the furniture has been passed down many generations. On one move from Texas to a 250-year-old home in Virginia, the house was renovated to look just like it did when it was built. Small ceilings, visible beams, and the hardwood floor was original. The new owner even showed us bullet holes on the outside of the house dating way back. We arrived around 4 p.m. and the owner told us where he wanted all the furniture, then left, and we got to work unloading. Right off the bat, we felt very uneasy in the home. Surrounded by mountains and trees, the nearest neighbors are about a mile away. There were 3 of us, and I was inside laying rugs before the other 2 brought in furniture. It got dark quick as the sun went behind the mountains. I heard footsteps on the 2nd floor and figured it was one of the guys going to the only working bathroom. When I walked outside, the 2 guys were coming in with the headboard for a bed. I asked if they were upstairs, and they both said they were taking a smoke break while I lay rugs. I shrugged it off as just the house being old. It is now pitch black outside, and the house is a historic monument to the city, meaning you can put so-and-so type of doors, lights, knobs, and etc. We were basically working with flashlights and candles with how low luminescence the house lights gave. We're assembling the living room area when we all hear a door slam at the back of the house. We figured it was a draft, but went to check it out anyways. These doors are original and easily weigh 80 to 100 pounds each. We all start to feel unsettled as I told them about the footsteps earlier. We start to unload the truck and assemble and place all the furniture as fast as we can. Once we got upstairs, the mood changed drastically. We all felt very nervous, as if we were being watched. While assembling a bed frame, from the corner of my eye, I would see shadows going back and forth. All of a sudden, we hear a loud bang downstairs. I went to look, and it was my drill that I left on the side of a table that fell to the floor. We all rush outside for a cigarette and see what needs to be finished to leave quickly. All that's left is the footboard of the bed I was assembling and to take an armoire to the 2nd floor. We plan accordingly, and we are in and out within 20 minutes. There was no way someone could have come onto the property because the owner had motion lights placed on the trees all around, and they only came on when we were outside. The homeowner was in a hotel 45 minutes away where I left him his keys. It's been about 3 years since that job, and we still talk about it to this day. When I was a kid in the 90s, I would often sleep at my grandmother's house in the middle of a small village in the Gironde region of France. The bedroom I would stay in was called the room in the back. As the name suggests, it was one of the last two rooms at the end of a main corridor shaped like an L. There wasn't anything special about that bedroom. It was pretty small and contained a bed, shelves with books, and some other very basic furniture. Yet, for some reason, that room creeped me out. I felt an unwelcoming presence, and I would always struggle to fall asleep, scared of whatever invisible forces seemed to be lurking in the dark. One night there, when I was around 8 years old, I woke up scared and confused. I found myself lying down on the floor and in total darkness. I feel I need to make two things clear here. This is the only time in my entire life that I've ever awakened outside of whatever bed or couch I had been sleeping in. The second thing to note is that despite the fact that this house is located in a small village, it wasn't particularly isolated, and the streetlights outside would always let a bit of light filter through the closed blinds at night. So here I was, a child surrounded by total obscurity, struggling to understand why I wasn't in my bed. I tried my best to stay calm and touched around me, hoping to find the side of the bed nearby so I could climb back into it. I simply could not find it. I tried for several minutes, but it just didn't seem to be there, which was extremely strange considering that the bedroom wasn't that big in the first place. I therefore decided to move forward in a single direction to find a wall that I could then follow until I would find the bed. Things just got even stranger as I tried to find a wall. I would bump into furniture I would not recognize, and despite all my efforts, I simply could not find one. Everything around me was completely and utterly unfamiliar. I thought about calling for help. My grandmother was sleeping in the bedroom on the other side of the corridor, and my parents in the living room. However, I imagined them finding me screaming on the floor and decided not wanting to face that kind of embarrassment. Finally, I fell asleep on the floor, giving up on finding the bed. I woke up the next morning in that damn bed and under the blankets. It was like the entire event had been nothing more than a weird dream. Yet it absolutely did not feel like a dream. I'm a natural lucid dreamer, and even back then I was already familiar with how dreams feel, and this just wasn't one. Or at least I don't think it was. A few years ago, a long time after this strange occurrence, I went to England to visit my aunt, who's from the other side of my family. She claims to be a witch and is into a lot of New Age stuff. I've always been skeptical, but I have to admit, she's done and said a few strange things that got me to go from not believing her at all to being a bit more neutral about it. We were talking about our respective families, and she went on about the only time she had ever been in my grandmother's house, when I was a baby. I thought it was a good opportunity to see if she had sensed anything unusual there, and asked her, making sure to keep the question open enough to not influence her. First thing she said was, "Ah, yes, the room in the back." She said it in French and had no idea we called it that way in French. There is something wrong with that room. I was spooked. Once I got back to France, I decided to confront my mother about it, since she'd spent her childhood in that house. As soon as I asked her what in the hell was wrong with the room in the back, she froze and her face became white. She explained to me that when she was little, she went in that bedroom with a few friends and they tried to invoke spirits for fun. They sat down on the floor in a circle, holding hands, and said, "Spirits, if you are here, knock 3 times. They immediately heard 3 very violent knocks and ran off screaming. She told me that ever since then, the room feels weird. That's it. Nowadays, the room is pretty different, but still used as a guest bedroom. It still feels weird, but I'd say a lot less than when I was a kid. I know my brothers, who are 10 years younger, have also complained about feeling uncomfortable there for some reason, but they've never had any unusual experiences there.